Everyone thinks bisexuality is like a gateway to just coming out as fully gay.
Am I going to hire you or am I going to fuck you?
I would hold your hands right now, but they're so sweaty.
Oh, my hands are soaked.
I'm so wet.
Oh my God. Do we want to fuck or be best friends?
The one in the middle is a slut.
If you're bi, it's because you're on your way to deciding.
I'd say greedy bisexual is the biggest one. Why is having more a bad thing?
This is a safe space. It's not going on the internet.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Queer Collective podcast. I'm your host, Carbon.
And I'm Emily.
I'm Victoria.
I'm Meg.
And I'm Kris with a K.
Love it.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Okay, so as y'all can tell, we have 3 special guests here with us today, and they are our close friends and collaborators who are the 3 beautiful humans behind the creative queer events organization called Something. One of their most popular event series is called Bye Bye Baby, which is an immersive art party that explores bisexuality. Because the 3 of them are doing so much here in Toronto for bi visibility, we wanted to bring them on to really chat about everything bisexuality. We're going to be chatting about the bi experience in its entirety, all the way to how you can affirm yourself in your own bisexuality. So let's get started.
So, according to a 2022 study from the Journal of Bisexuality, bisexual women in relationships with cis straight men are the least likely to be fully out of the closet. I think this points to this feeling with bisexuality that coming out is unnecessary if you're in a long-term relationship with an opposite sex partner. I want to know, can you share your thoughts and experience with this, if you have them, and perhaps hitting on how affirming it can be to be out of the closet?
So I kind of had to come out because I was like 22. I had just gotten into a relationship with a woman. And so I was going to bring her home, so my parents weren't going to know. So I came out to my friends first, and then I came out to my family. And actually, I came out to Victoria.
Yes. Oh my gosh. No, that's right. You did. I totally forgot about that. We were in our undergrad at a school dance, and I had to pee, and I walked into the bathroom stall, and I opened the door, and Megan was making out with a girl.
That's a lot.
Oops.
Anyway.
So Victoria just opened the closet door rather
Literally, she like forced me out. She was like, oh my God.
than just like, hey, you're gay.
I'm just trying to pee.
That was my experience. I kind of always knew or had a feeling, but it wasn't until I like entered a relationship kind of forced me out of the closet a little bit.
How was it coming out to your family?
They were actually very chill about it. My mom's very much like, you do whatever, love whoever you love. Like, I don't care if you're dating an octopus. Like, she'll just like, you know.
I feel like this does further affirm the study, though, with it just saying that you felt like you needed to come out because you were dating women. But it's like a lot of the people who have been dating men for such a long time don't feel like they need to.
That's kind of like you.
That's more like what my experience was. Like, I felt not pushed, but I felt encouraged to come out after Meg had come out to her friends and family because of that. I had been dating a man for a very long time up to that point that she came out, and I was like, wow, this is really nice. I can share this, what I always knew about myself, with other people and just like live more authentically, I guess, in that way, by just like sharing this like really special thing that I just never shared with people before. So you encouraged me to come out, and it was really beautiful because I didn't know any other bi people at the time. No one's really sharing those things with friends in high school and all that kind of stuff. So it was really nice, and I'm very happy that I did it. It's really encouraging to seeing someone that you know come out as bi, because there's not a lot of bi representation in the media either to draw upon. Like, you'll see TV shows with like the gay best friend. I mean, there's not even a lot of like lesbians in the media. I mean, there are more so now, but like definitely no bis.
Yeah.
10 years ago even.
There wasn't a lot to look at.
Yeah, you're kind of like, who do I know that's bi? I don't know. It sort of does feel like a fantastical, magical thing to be bisexual, because I feel like it's not really, I don't know, sometimes it's very like the unknown territory, because it's just such, in my opinion, this is obviously all our individual experiences talking about bisexuality, but such a spectrum, sexuality. That's how we view it.
How old were you all when you A, realized that you were bisexual, and B, when you came out?
Oh my God. Realized? 10.
Really? At 10?
I was in
you
like-
knew yourself at 10?
Okay, I didn't like, in my mind, I wasn't like, I'm bi, but I was like staying up late to watch the L Word. So
When you were 10.
Wow.
it was on a showcase, guys. No? Anyone else? Showtime? What was it?
My favorite channel.
I didn't have a crush on like any of my friends or anything like that, but it was a lot of like celebrities. My brother's like Alicia Cuthbert poster in his room. I was like, I can't stare at that for too long or everyone's going to know. But I didn't come out until I was 22.
Yeah, I definitely knew that I was bi, like up until like elementary school. I started like, I don't know, I would have crushes on what I thought was a boy. They'd be like a tomboy, they'd be a girl. And that kind of like makes you just think about sexuality in such a different way. I came out to a friend of mine in high school when I was 18, but it was very much just kind of like,
I think I like girls.
Was there like a moment where you're like, I like girls?
I don't know. It was always, I'm very attracted to women. Like, I like boobs. Like that simple stuff where you're just like, I don't understand why no one else is feeling like they want to like touch or like be affectionate more in that way. I didn't have the whole practice kissing experience that a lot of other people did with their friends.
Looking right at us.
Yeah.
Whoa, hold on. You practice with each other?
Touch. No.
By the way, they all went to high school together, right?
We went to high school together.
Yeah.
We went to university together.
Okay.
Who did
Now
you
we're
practice
all
with?
Friends.
my
You
God.
just kind of, you know,
Her
you like
Barbies.
get drunk and then you just, everybody kisses. I don't know if that's a straight girl experience.
No,
though.
I think I was like encouraging it too much. I
Kiss?
saw other people do it and then I was like, we're doing this now. I was like, every time we get drunk, we're going to do this.
Yeah.
So this next question, I wanted to point over to Vic to start out. But with bisexuality, there can definitely be this feeling of imposter syndrome of being too straight to be included in queer spaces. And with all of you creating this specifically bi but queer space in the community, I'm feeling like it's really bringing the queer but bisexual community specifically together. And I'm wondering if there's ever been kind of like this level of overcoming this biphobic internal talk and imposter syndrome in your head for you all to get to this place of like really celebrating yourself and your bisexuality.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there was no internalized biphobia until like all queer phobia, I feel like, until it was brought to you, like these ideas that it was wrong or that like you had to pick a side or it's really greedy to want to like more than one gender. For me, like the internalization was just like, what do I like? I have no idea. I'm trying to figure that out. But yeah, Bye Bye Baby is great because it offers a chance for other people who are considering that they're bi or have that internalized biphobia. It just offers some space to come together and celebrate bisexuality in a safe way. There really aren't a lot of spaces in Toronto that do that. There's the Toronto Bi-Net, which is fantastic, but this is just another opportunity for bis to come together. And I think it's also, you know, it kind of feels safe to celebrate it through art and performance and different artistic mediums. It kind of gives you like a foundation to sit on and celebrate bisexuality that way.
Primarily, my friend group is gay men. And so definitely going into those spaces, you feel good being in a queer setting, but I'm not a gay man. So you definitely feel, a bit more to one side. And you're like, well, where are these spaces where I can kind of just like feel a little, you know, mixed up and confused with other people that feel the same way. But yeah, imposter syndrome is definitely real when it comes to the whole bi sphere.
My internalized biphobia or like imposter syndrome in my old relationship, like the fact that I was bisexual was such a problem because of that whole like bisexual cheater, like greedy bisexual stereotype. And so for a while after, like even after I left that relationship, I just sort of assumed that like all lesbians hated bisexuals.
That was like a trend.
It's
Still happening.
It does still happen, doesn't it?
I feel like if a straight person is uncomfortable with the fact that you're bisexual, like fuck them. But if a queer person doesn't like the fact that you're bisexual or like talk shit about you because you're bisexual, it hurts so much more. It feels so much more like personal.
Yeah, because you're like, where do I belong?
I know. I'm like, what do you mean I don't fit in? What do you mean I
Yeah.
can't sit with you?
The first Pride that I ever went to was my first Pride experience. I was with a gay friend of mine, and we were in line going to one of the bars in the village. There was somebody behind me, also a gay man. It was just like, what is she doing here? Why is she here? My friend just turned around. And he was just like, she's allowed to be here. She's bisexual. It was great. But it was also terrible. I was like, okay, great. So I'm not allowed to be here. Like, the queers don't want me. The straights don't want me. Who wants me?
Yeah.
How do you guys feel about that?
I feel like I kind of dance between the label of being bisexual and also being a lesbian. Like I feel like I identify a lot with like lesbian history and lesbian politics and a bit of man hating as well, just because of like my own like negative experiences with men, but I'm like trying to overcome that. And I also feel like seeing the three of you being so like, I don't know, celebrating bisexuality, I do think I have a lot of internalized biphobia for sure, because I am attracted to men. I just like have had a lot of negative sexual experiences with them, so I'm like not as interested in sex with them.
Yeah.
And
That
that's
makes sense.
totally
Fair.
fair too,
Yeah.
though, because there just is less sex education out there, and like men see what they see in the media, they see what they see in porn. This is going to be a controversial thing I'm about to say, but I feel like it's harder to connect with men. You know, when they're younger, they're not taught to be so emotional and affectionate as women are when they're younger.
And I think I just realized too, okay, I've made up my own label. I'm like seeing so many other people making up their own like gender labels and everything, and I'm like, I'm a bisexual lesbian. And I don't give a shit. I love that. I identify with both. And I don't know. It's like I go between both of them a little bit because I feel like I want to be in both communities, You know what I mean? And I feel like at some points in my life, I feel like I'm like in the other one. But I feel like your sexuality can be as fluid as your gender can be as well sometimes.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
100%.
it's a spectrum.
Yeah. And I feel like there'll be like some lesbians that hate on that, but I don't care.
How do you feel? How do you feel as a lesbian? Do you hate bisexuals?
Whoa, hold up. So
Interrogating.
I do identify with the label of lesbian, but I also like, I feel like it's too limiting for me. So I don't like, I'll say it, but at the same time, I'm like not 100% there. Like there's still a level of attraction to guys. I'm just like further up on the spectrum.
What's your percentage?
My percentage.
No.
What are your stats?
Yeah, what are your stats? What are your bi stats?
Well, if I pull up my analytics from the past 10 years.
I think though, just this idea of biphobia from within the queer community, it comes from internalized biphobia, but it also can come from like the man-hating element too, and like seeing bi people as like traitors, if that makes sense.
That's
I
how
think
it feels.
That's how it's like rooted a little bit in the queer community, especially with the history of like TERFs, especially, and like that kind of lesbian feminism too, of just like straight up man hating.
Yeah.
And then I think a lot of people still think that that is existing today, but it's not.
No, but it is.
It is, but not in the majority anymore. You know what I'm saying? It's like you are safe to be in this community. I think the majority of people agree that like bisexuals, anyone, no matter the way you look or present your queerness or your bisexuality, you're included in the queer community.
I think we can say that about Canada, but like
ways.
I've heard different things about like America.
That's fair. Kind of on the topic of what bisexuality looks like, I was wondering if we can interrogate the idea a bit of being straight passing, and even you bringing up that experience of someone being like, you shouldn't be here just based off of like how you look, because I'd say like the majority of us look very straight passing, whatever the hell that means.
None of us have septing
Except for Carmen.
Not in that vest.
If we can chat about just like what that means and kind of what that puts on somebody when you say you're straight passing.
Yeah. Straight passing is so interesting because what does it mean to look queer? Like, I feel like we've put these ideas out on what it means to look queer. Like, maybe you have a shaved head. Maybe you, I don't know, lots of colors. Like, I don't even know. Yeah. We as a society have put these ideas on what it looks like to look queer and what it looks like to look straight.
Well, one time the three of us tried to go to a lesbian bar and we didn't get let in. And we think
What?
it's... I know.
Wait, hold on.
Call them out.
Yeah, and we were all like, do you think it's because we look straight? Like, should we have worn more rings? What?
I think like we were wearing dresses and we had our hair down.
There was space in the bar though, and they said no.
100%.
Yeah,
100%.
What?
They were like, yeah, we'll call you.
Yeah.
We'll call you.
Yeah. And we were like, okay, we're not gay looking enough. Like, what do
That's
we
what it
understand?
felt like anyway. Like, even if that's not what it was, that's really what
Yeah.
it felt like. They weren't very nice.
I mean, at the end of the day, I think it's just stereotypes, like you were saying. And I do feel like this idea of being quote unquote straight passing, I think it can imply intentionality of wanting to be straight passing too, rather than like, this is just how I want to present.
Yeah.
And I think it in turn can also like put someone back in the closet too. Like if you didn't have someone stand up for you, like how would you have felt that day, for example?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what
I probably
mean?
would have walked away. I would have been like,
Exactly.
you're right. Yeah, sure. I'm not supposed to be here at all.
And I mean, there is so much privilege with being straight passing. It's like you
Absolutely, there
can
is.
blend into corporate spaces, you can blend into straight spaces. I feel like for myself specifically, like I feel like I can act as a chameleon in kind of like any space I want to be in, and you can always like add on like queer coded pieces to yourself. But I mean, at the end of the day, I look at these other add-ons, I guess, to like how I'd want to change myself. I'm like, would I want to shave my head? It's like, that's not me, you know?
Yeah.
And it's at the end of the day, it's like, this is what queerness looks like for me.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
Totally.
It's what it looks like
Yeah.
for you, how you want to identify. And
Yeah.
it's just, it's so much more of a deep-rooted, larger issue of like, why does it matter what people look like at the end of the day?
Yeah.
Or, you know, or how they identify.
It's no one's business. Like, if you want to comment on it in a fun way with your friends, then sure. But like, yeah, having that straight passing kind of safety net also kind of now separates you with like your community and like straight people. Of course it does. But then you just like get all these thoughts in your head about like, oh, like, should I dress more queer? Like, is this bad how I am presenting myself to the world when I do know on the inside that I am bi? Like, I don't know what that looks like. It just really shouldn't matter.
Have you ever been with a girl that was afraid of that? You being like, I'm going to leave you for a man.
Oh, I've not dated a girl.
Everyone, Victoria. Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
Really? She's
Yeah.
insecure?
Yeah. 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 Yes.
This is a safe space.
Say more.
This is a safe space. It's not going on the internet or anything. It was very much like a lot of accusations, a lot of jealousy, a lot of like going through my phone, finding like any man texting me or commenting on my Instagram account and being like, then you're straight then. So you're straight. And I think the way that the relationship started too, it was also like quintessential like lesbian movie where like you're with a man forever and then you fall in love with a woman and then that was literally what happened to me. So I think like the relationship starting out in that way maybe also started off on the wrong foot. But I was so young. I was figuring out whether I was I lesbian? Was it all just like comp het? Or was I bisexual? Was I queer? Was I pansexual? I was trying to figure it all out and having like someone just tell me over and over again that like I'm only interested in men.
Yeah.
When I was like in love with a woman, it was so confusing.
It all stems from like insecurities. And to be honest, like even with myself when I first started dating Emily, I had fears of like, well, what if you just like guys more? What if I can't give you everything that you want sexually? I was never like insecure about her falling in love or finding another girl attractive because I was like, I'm the best.
You're like, I'm the hottest.
I was like, it's fine. They got nothing on me. But with a guy, I was like, well, I don't have that. So I literally cannot morph myself and give you something that I don't have. So that was where the insecurity was stemming from.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I was like, I mean, I got over it.
And that's a conversation. Like you were like, hey, I'm insecure about this. And you're having a conversation about how it makes you feel. Where like, I think there's the potential for it to get so toxic so quickly if you're just projecting all of your shit on someone. And which is not what you did. So I think that was good.
We talked about it.
You're like, well, no, I was doing that.
No.
I'm kidding.
I was like, I'm insecure and this is why.
Yeah, that's important. Like you should be able to have those conversations.
I think that's a good question for people who have biphobia towards maybe a partner that they're with is like, why do you feel like somebody of another gender would do better or be better? I think it comes down to like a deeper question of just like, why do you think another human would do better or be better? Like what is that really about?
Does that happen with a man? Like, do they get insecure like a woman's going to give you something that they can't or something like that?
I think my partner was really nervous when I came out because it was so long into our relationship that I came out to him, like probably like, I don't know, 8 years into our relationship. We've been dating for 10 years, which is also a little bit of my internalized biphobia because I felt weird sharing that with y'all. I also felt like I didn't need to. And I was like, oh, we're so happy and satisfied in our relationship now. I just want to add more great things to our life by sharing this with you and maybe sharing things together, relationships with other people, whatever that looks like. But yeah, I definitely think there was worry on his end because he was like, oh, like this kind of just shook it up in an interesting way that I didn't expect. Yeah. And like, I don't know what that looks like to me. Obviously, I don't think he knows any other bi women or bi males or bi any people for that matter. So yeah, it was very interesting. And it did take a lot of talking and like reassuring, like this isn't a me not being satisfied thing. It's just that like I am so satisfied and so happy that I just don't think you should feel bad about wanting to add more things to your life. Yeah. And that's kind of where that stemmed from and everything worked out great.
I know some people who came out to their male partners as bi and then the partner's first reaction is like, can I watch? Which is like
Well, that was what happened to me when I came out to my boyfriend back in the day. We can bring a girl into the relationship and I was like, oh, I think like by myself though. You know?
Like this isn't for you. I think a lot of men assume like like that women making out thing. Like
it's
that
for them.
Yeah. Which it's not.
Which one was it? Was it you went off on your own or you experienced it together for the first time?
We experienced it together. It was really great because it did take like some talking about it and being like, okay, this is just something that I want to go and do. Do you want to do it with me? Are you okay if I go and do this alone? And then it was like, oh, I think I'd rather be with you when we have this experiences or we're going to bring this into our relationship because I might feel bad if I'm not part of it. And I'm like, that's so fair and so valid that I'm very happy that like you would want to be part of this really fun experience with me and for me, essentially.
That's really good, healthy communication.
And it took a long time to get there, for sure. I mean, like 10 years is a long time to be with someone, for sure. And like, no, I'm very proud of where we got to now. And yeah, I feel like once you get to that point and you're having those conversations with your partner, you can do whatever you want.
You can rule the world.
You can rule the world. But as long as you're doing it consensually, safely, and everyone's Thumbs up.
Kind of on that note, all of you have experienced open relationships. So we are going to dive into that kind of on the last part when we chat about ways to affirm your bisexuality. For right now, I kind of wanted to dive deeper into what bisexuality looks like and that kind of myth around it. But according to that same study from the Journal of Bisexuality, the majority of bisexual identifying people are women. And I'm kind of wondering what we think about this stat. What are the thoughts?
I feel like with that statistic, I feel like it may be easier for women to kind of, entertain the idea and come out more than men, only because the media throws so much hypersexuality around women, women's bodies and women's relationships and things like that, that I think subconsciously, at least for me, like after a certain point, you're just kind of like, okay, yeah.
Like women are hot.
Maybe you're right, media. Maybe women are as hot as you're making me see and all that kind of stuff. So you kind of just subconsciously live with all these thoughts in your head for so long that you just go along with it maybe.
Even the way we were all talking about like kissing at parties, it's like the context of that was we were kissing in front of boys. You know what I'm saying? And it's like that's why we were able to kind of have those first queer experiences is because it was framed in that way, not in the way that like we're gay.
But, like, why aren't boys kissing in front of us?
Make out.
Maybe it pleases me to see you kiss, and I would like that. I actually would.
On the other side, I feel like for men, it questions their masculinity, I guess.
Yeah, like no homo. Like, don't hold my hand.
Totally.
It's a big thing.
No homo.
No homo.
So we have a friend, he's from Iran. He was talking about how men there who have sex with other men, if they're the ones penetrating, they're like, I'm not gay. He's gay. He's the one that got fucked. I'm straight.
Interesting.
It's really on the technicalities here.
No, but it's such like homophobia and so internal, so deeply rooted that if you're not the one being penetrated, you're not gay.
I don't know why they're trying to find
that.
something wrong with it.
Yeah.
Like,
Just do it. Like the idea that all bi men are actually just gay and then all bi women are actually just straight.
Yeah.
We actually don't all just want men.
But also, especially for these men where it's like they like to be more femme as well. It's like people will not affirm their bisexuality at all.
There's also straight men that like being femme, or like maybe they identify as like a little queer, a streak of queerness, but maybe they only want to like make out with dudes and not necessarily like have sex or like have a relationship even. And don't fully identify as bi because they couldn't have a relationship with men, but maybe just want to like have a little fun with men.
that's so interesting too, though. Like, why does having a relationship with somebody define your sexuality?
Totally.
I
so true.
Completely agree. I've never been in a relationship with a woman. And so like obviously when Meg had come out, I was like, oh, my version of bi is so different from yours because I'm not dating a girl. Like maybe I would, maybe I could, but like I am just like so happy with where I am now in my relationship. Like that's so confusing. Like it is playing that like you're tiptoeing on the line of like, oh yeah, is this enough? Like am I enough? What does this look like?
Am I affirming my bisexuality because I'm dating a man?
Totally.
And not a woman.
That's a
That's
lot.
the internalized biphobia.
That's the internalized biphobia. Yeah. I know I am.
I know. We all know.
How do we feel about bi men though?
I love them. Where are you?
My partner is bi, which is great. That's where the bi men are. My partner. I got
I
one.
feel
She
like,
got the one.
yeah, even at Bye Bye Baby, like it's such a large population of women or like non-binary people, and there's not very many cis bi men that come to the event, which is unfortunate. Like we definitely have seen more come out to the event now that we've been doing it. This will be our fourth one. It is that thing that like a lot of people just think that bi men are strictly gay and maybe that they're using it as like a gateway. Everyone thinks bisexuality is like a gateway to just coming out as fully gay, which it's not. You can stop there.
That's okay. And it is like we said earlier, like we think sexuality is such a spectrum. So, and I think that can change throughout your life. So depending on where you're at in life, what period you're at, you could feel a little more leaning towards liking women, or you could feel a little more towards liking men, or just like, I'm not trying to exclude non-binary people or trans folk or anything like that while we're having this discussion either. I think just a lot of people do, when they think about bisexuality, they think man or woman.
Because
But
bi means two.
bi means two. And our thoughts about bisexuality is with bi meaning two is that it's you and somebody else, but it doesn't matter what that that gender is.
Right.
So it's not man and woman. That's not the two.
Yeah.
It's the two is yourself and somebody else.
Any other
person.
Any other gender or
Yeah.
identity.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask y'all a follow-up question kind of about men in the bisexual space, especially with you saying that Bye Bye Baby feels like it's predominantly women and non-binary people. How do we expand men in this space and like welcome them more to come out and feel like they can come out?
That's a great question. If you are a bi man, come to Bye Bye Baby. You
now.
are welcome. Call now. 1-800-BI-BABY. No, yeah, I think in like the types of artists that we hire at the event, like we're really trying to have more bi male artists and vendors. And
It's tricky. It's just the more events that are around like this, I feel like the more people will get comfortable with the idea of going or participating in their own communities. Like, I've never seen an event like this before. Obviously, that's why we decided to do one. But I think that there is just a really big lack of space. So I don't know if it's something specifically what we can do to bring out more bi men to our events. I think it's just as a whole, like, call to action. There just needs to be more things for people to go to.
Yeah.
Maybe a call of like, if you don't necessarily identify as bi, but you're maybe like hetero-flexible, come out.
I think there's also this like stigmatization that can come from a lot of straight women who may be more like closed-minded, but feeling like you don't want your like male partner to be bi, like it like devalues them
like
as
their
a man.
masculinity.
Yeah, whereas like it would be seen as like a
interesting.
hot thing if your female partner is bi. To me, it's like you're comfortable with your sexuality, and I like that.
Yeah.
It's confidence.
Exactly.
It's confidence.
It's the confidence.
And I also feel like, it's the confidence. Like, you're not this victim of the patriarchy in my mind. And I'm like, that's hot. You know yourself. You're comfortable with yourself. Do you think we can chat more about bisexual misconceptions? Are there any that are prominent for y'all?
Greedy bisexual.
Thousands.
Yeah.
Okay. Greedy that is definitely
the
a
one you hear
common
most.
one.
Yeah,
That's
I
the one you
think.
hear most.
Yeah.
I am a greedy, but no, I'm just kidding. No,
It's true, but not for everyone.
I'm greedy. No, like the greedy bisexual can't make up their mind. Like the biggest one is like, what does bisexual mean? And like I think the bisexual meaning like only men and only women. That's one of the biggest and most harmful.
Yeah.
Or the make up your mind not stereotype, but like conversation surrounding bisexuality.
I hate the greedy one though. Like greedy, why are we making it a bad thing? Yes, it's one of the 7 deadly sins. Sure. It's not good. It's not a good one.
No one
But
says
I mean,
gluttonous bisexual.
right. Well, no, but I think it's like, why are you putting such negative connotations on that? Like, I'm not greedy because I want more. I just feel like I'm confident and I know what who I am and what I want. If I'm doing everything safely and like consensually in my relationship, why is having more a bad thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think you should say, like, don't look down on me and be like, oh, you're greedy because like you've had enough.
But why does just having more options mean that you're greedy though?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Human beings are beautiful.
What if you got more
just
love to give?
Exactly. And like just taking more of that, if that's what you want, then that's not a bad thing.
I think your relationship structure means you might be taking more fish from the pool,
Yeah.
per se. But
Some would say,
I
for
don't
sure.
think your bisexuality does, though, because there's still bisexual people who are in monogamous relationships.
And are not
Totally.
cheating.
Exactly.
And aren't looking like they're fine.
Yeah. She's fine. She's fine. Everything's going to be fine.
Yeah. I'd say greedy bisexual is the biggest one. We also recently put out like a question on our Instagram just asking people as we're nearing Bi Visibility Day, what are some common misconceptions that people receive or people feel about bisexuality? The biggest one that we got once we put those questions out was just people wanting there to be less bi erasure and less biphobia from all of the communities that are out there. Like it's really just wanting to be accepted as a lot of people do. Like you just kind of want to be accepted. You don't want to be questioned because you're already kind of questioning it yourself or you're like, is it woman, is it men that I
Or
like? I don't know.
forgotten. Like it's the third letter in the gay alphabet.
Totally.
You know what I
Forgotten
mean?
all the time.
Yeah.
The middle child is always forgotten. I do gotta say, you're the middle child.
Yeah, and it's
Middle
hard
children.
to like to get people to talk about bisexuality without also feeling like you're taking away from like other really terrible things that are happening in the queer community. Because I'm not trying to say that bi struggles are any worse than anyone else's struggles, but that doesn't mean we can ignore them or like have to feel bad about it.
I also think it just makes the community stronger to have more people as part of the group. I kind of think this idea of bi erasure comes from the misconception, and I think you touched on it kind of earlier in the podcast episode, but that if you're bi, it's because you're on your way to deciding, like whether you're straight or whether you're gay.
It's like a gateway drug.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Gateway
It's a gateway drug, and it doesn't mean you
Gateway
can't stay
Yeah.
there. And I think that really plays
Which
into
sucks because
bi erasure.
now you're criticizing like what my journey is because you think it's a whole journey. It's like this is just where I want to be. Like I want to exist right here. Why do I feel like I have to either move forward or backwards?
I'm parked.
I am parked right into bisexuality.
And it's okay if that changes. Like life is very long, hopefully. Life is very long for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So it is also okay if you ebb and flow and flex. Like it's cool.
It's also okay if you do come out as bisexual first before coming out as fully gay or
I
lesbian.
did that.
Yeah, like
Well, I actually, again, I don't know
Then
if
you-
I identify
then you walked
with
it back.
I don't know if I identify with lesbian fully, but like I definitely came out as bi at first. And I was like, yep, 50-50. And I thought it meant 50-50 also, which is another thing, is that people think that bi is 50-50 and it's not really.
Yeah.
It's like sometimes it's 80-20 or
totally.
100% everyone.
Yes.
Greedy.
There we go.
That should be the bisexual motto. Like, it's just
That's it.
100% everyone.
Oh my God, something merch.
So the last theme that we wanted to dive into was ways to affirm your bisexuality, especially if you're in a opposite sex relationship as well, which all three of you are right now. All three of you have explored open relationships in some regards, and I'm wondering if each of you could share a bit about your experience with that, whether it was good or bad for your relationships and for yourself in affirming your identity, and kind of what your experience was. So
I never really thought that I was going to date a man again. That was just kind of like not in the cards for me. And then it happened. You can't control who you fall in love with. And so our relationship has been open right from the very start, just because like what I know about myself and how I know I want relationships to be moving forward, which also I don't want jealousy in my relationship. I wanted to be very open about my bisexuality right from the beginning. And I didn't want to close myself off to any like new queer relationships or experiences. And he's been fantastic about that right from the get-go. And it's been great for our relationship. It's so much communication, so much talking, which is nice. I've never like been more happy and independent in a relationship than I am right now.
what are the rules around your open relationship? Because one thing we learned in our polyamory episode with Yaz, which we recommend folks go and explore that episode afterwards, but that you should kind of have somewhat of a relationship contract for it to go well and for it to
Definitely.
be ethical. So what does that look like for you?
It's kind of always changing. Like at first it was like, if you're out and something happens, that's fine. And now it's sort of moving into like, if you have feelings for people, like that's fine. Let's just keep talking about it. I'm really only interested in like opening up the relationship on my side to just women. Like I'm not looking for like other men. I'm good.
Enough.
And that's enough. That's a part of it too, which doesn't work for everybody. And it's not that he doesn't like respect queer relationships. He definitely does. It's just me personally. That's what I'm looking for. And it is sort of ever changing though. It's a lot of figuring out what works and what doesn't work and implementing it.
Yeah, I feel like you described it really well one time. It's just like you have the experience and then you kind of learn from there, and maybe you'll like reset boundaries or you'll reset the communication on like what you learned based off of that and how you
Trial and error.
So much trial and error.
is.
So you have to be with someone that you like really trust. Like I wouldn't have tried
100%.
this in any other relationship I've been in. Messy.
Well, what do you do if you try something and then the other person's like, oh, you know what? I'm actually not cool with that.
Then you're just sorry. No, I think then you just figure it out together. There's so much forgiveness involved too. Like if he does something that like maybe kind of hurt my feelings, then we talk about it. Like maybe I come at it with some hurt feelings. And then it's just sort of, okay, that didn't work. Immediate communication, talking about it right off the bat, forgiveness, and then moving forward knowing that
because
needs to
everyone's
change.
human. Everyone's human at the end of the day, and you don't know how you know somebody really, really well, but you also just don't know how you are going to affect them or how you're going to feel affected. You just have to go into that with a lot of empathy, maybe.
What's that word we learned the other night at the field event?
This was actually interesting. We were chatting with someone at our field social event the other day, and they brought up this idea of like compersion. So it's our wholehearted participation in the happiness of others, which they kind of expressed differently and kind of related it then to open relationships and just being like not feeling jealousy, but feeling like wholeheartedly just really happy for that person that they had that experience.
So my partner and I, we are open. The likelihood of me probably going to go and do something is probably higher, maybe. Like, I don't know if he's super, we're not actively whatever.
Yeah.
If something happens, it happens.
Yeah.
But like, I get really excited when I do have an experience with someone without him there. And like, I just want to share it with him later and be like, I just did this thing that I thought was so fun and so exciting. Like, babe, wake up. Like, I got to tell you that I hooked up with this girl. Like, there's been times like that where I've been like, I'm really excited. Like, and I hope you're happy. Wholeheartedly about this experience that I had because I just want to share it with you. Even though you weren't there, it's still a shared experience because the communication is so open and so nice.
Yeah.
And why wouldn't you want your partner to like experience everything that they can and want to experience?
Yeah.
Are there any parameters that were okay at first, and then once they were crossed, you had to like go back and be like, you know what, that's not so okay?
So far, no, for me. It's been the other way where it's like the parameter was no feelings. And then I was like, oh shit, I have feelings. And then the parameter was like pushed a little further and he was like, oh, okay, I actually don't feel weird about that. Like it's fine. I actually feel differently than I originally thought I would feel. So like keep going, have fun.
Do you feel your partner feels that way because it's a woman though? Would they feel differently if it was a man? Like, I think that's a really important question.
That is,
yeah.
For bis that are in relationships with the opposite gender, like women with men, for example, men do often get jealous if you're a bi and you're like, oh yeah, I want to see women, but then it switches to, oh, I want to see a man.
Yeah.
And like how would that impact
And how would that, it's
Yeah.
just that I think is just an entirely different boundary setting.
Yeah.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
It feels like there's this sort of, you know, like well, you have this already. Why do you need the same?
And that's what it is. I think if it were to be anything, it wouldn't. It's not in a like disrespecting queer relationships way. It's in a like, but if you're going to have feelings for a man or if you're going to sleep with a man, like, why can't that man be me? But I don't know. That's such a complicated side of open relationships, I think.
Yeah.
And it's one I'm not really personally dealing with because I don't want to sleep with other men.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Christine, have you slept with other men?
No, I feel like I could though, like, but they would have to be part of this queer umbrella. Like, that's what I find attractive. Like, I'm not actively like, I need to go find a straight man. Like,
Right.
I have one at home that I'm very happy with.
Yeah.
But like, it is just like, finding other queer relationships and having those experiences with people. If you are a male or identify as such, then like, that's great if that happens. But yeah, I don't think it like takes away, and it shouldn't take away of like how my partner feels, because it is a different relationship altogether. Yeah, if they have the same body parts that you do, their experience is so different, and that's what I find really attractive.
Well, I was just going to ask if it's felt affirming for you, because that's kind of what we're exploring is like ways to affirm your bisexuality.
To talk this way, like we talk about this with each other, like that's already very affirming, because you can feel that community of like, oh wow, we all kind of like feel the same way, but we also have this like dialogue going where we can like question each other and be like, oh, you think this way, blah blah. And then even doing this podcast today, I think is very affirming. It's the conversation that is lacking, and I think a lot of people's relationships with each other in the queer community and in the straight community, I think it's like a lot of conversation that is very affirming for me, at least.
Yeah.
And just because we're all in relationships with men and wanting to have these queer relationships outside of those, it doesn't mean for that other person that we want to have those experiences with that we're just using them, because that's a big
thing.
bisexual.
That's a good point to hit.
Yeah,
That's why
misconception
people
too.
think, like,
and that's why people like
greedy
think
bisexual.
you're greedy. I think you as that outside person just need to know and respect the primary partner and respect those boundaries.
Communication with everyone involved.
Everyone.
Like, are you okay?
Yeah.
Is everyone okay?
Yeah, like
All
do
the
you
time.
understand what you're getting into, because you can't get upset. Like, I think it's just the person that you're with.
It's also important, I think, if you are in a monogamous relationship, like you're still bi. You don't have to open up your relationship to be bisexual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It can just be a good way to explore it if you do want to stay with your partner and that's something you want to do. Because for me, it was like in my first relationship with a guy in high school, that's when I was starting to realize that I was bisexual, kind of like near the end of high school. And I came out to him and told him, and he was like, we have to break up. Like, I'm not okay with you going and doing that. And I think it was his own insecurity.
For sure.
I mean, like, I did realize a lot of things that I do want to be in a long-term relationship with a woman, just because like I like the dynamic in like a relationship sense, but I'm still like open to sexual experiences with everyone. But I feel like I needed to do that to affirm at least my bisexuality and at least the fact that I liked women, it's like when it's just a question you have in your head and you haven't explored it yet, it's kind of hard to keep going with like an itch you haven't scratched. At least like I couldn't.
That's
like
fair.
I couldn't keep
Yeah,
moving
that's
forward
fair.
until I scratched it.
Yeah.
We're newly exploring an open relationship right now and haven't gotten that far, so we can't give too many updates. But I feel like it is affirming though, like just being able to explore it and talk to women and like, or talk to men,
Or
talk to
even
non-binary
just
people,
to
talk to
have
whoever you want.
the conversation within ourselves.
With your
Yeah.
partner.
Yeah.
Yeah,
For sure.
and just know that it's like it's okay. Like if that opportunity arises for you, you can do that.
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
I think like once you start questioning your sexuality, like you're already doing away with like that societal pressure of like of comp het and of like heterosexuality and monogamy
Yeah.
are normal. So it's easier once you've already questioned that to also question monogamy
Yeah,
and open it up even further and like really ask like what is the life, what is the relationship that I want?
yeah,
It's really just a person-to-person experience.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's like what you want in relationships in general, if relationships are what you want. I'm currently not in an open relationship. I'm in a monogamous relationship. I was in an open relationship and just decided to close that back up for the meantime. It also doesn't mean that it's monogamous forever. I think we're just assessing where we're at, and we'll just keep assessing it and keep communicating, and that's also okay too. It's okay to be bi and be in a monogamous relationship.
But
I'm
I do
telling
think that's
you.
an important point of like if you're an open, it's like it can seem like the point of no return,
Totally.
but you can return.
Yeah, and I think
course.
that also can be a scary conversation too, because it kind of feels like, oh, like we're closing it up and like it's never going to happen again. But just it's all about your
Yeah.
relationship and your happiness,
Yeah.
and your partner's happiness.
Yeah.
It just has to be
And what
respected.
your needs are in that moment.
Yeah.
I can have sex with anyone I want. Don't put that in there.
Do you go on dates or just sexual experiences if you happen to run up on them?
Dates.
Dates.
And yeah, whatever.
I haven't gone on dates. I'm not on any of the apps, but she tries to get me to go on them.
You should. It's fun. Sorry.
I don't go on dates. I just feel like I meet people out and about.
I like going on dates because I feel like I'm more myself, like sitting down. I can't just be out. I'm too awkward. I'm like, I want to go home. Where's Ann W? Like, I need to get out of here.
if I'm standing up, not myself.
I will not be doing
personality.
it. Yeah.
You can't flirt standing up.
You really can't.
And then last question before we move on. What does that debrief look like after you have an experience with somebody else?
Just kind of like sitting down on the couch, telling both sides of the
Sitting, of
feelings.
course.
Sitting, of course. I need to be
Obviously, you have
myself.
to sit.
And sitting like a bisexual with my
yeah,
feet
Kris
up like
likes,
this. Yeah, and just kind of like talking through the experience, like what happened. Just being like checking in every once in a while. Being, how do you feel about that?
Yeah.
Like, do you have any questions? Or like, does this feel okay? Did I overstep in any way?
And it's also okay for any emotions that come up on either end for you to feel those. Like obviously we
You're
talked
allowed
about this
your own
before.
reaction.
You're allowed your own reaction. You have to try and regulate your emotions, but you are allowed your own reaction, and it's always best to just try and talk that out or give space where space is needed. But like remembering your foundation, keeping that foundation solid is really, really important, I think, if you want to explore that.
And it doesn't have to be so serious all the time either. Like a lot of the time when we're chatting about it, we're like laughing. It's like a lot of like giggling and being like, okay, and then so
Excitement.
and they were roommates. It's funny, it's fun and it's exciting and it should feel fun. Like if you're harboring a lot of resentment and you're having these conversations and every conversation feels hard and painful, like then reassess.
Maybe it's not right for you.
Yeah, there's something bigger going
That's
on. if
okay
the
too.
case.
Yeah. So I think we got a lot of good things here in terms of ways to affirm your identity. If you're in a monogamous relationship, maybe think about opening it up if that feels right for you. And so you can try out these queer experiences. And then also just chatting with people as well, Kris said. Having those conversations, connecting with other bi community members so you can share your own experiences and like kind of feel that community energy. I also think going to your events too is another really great way to explore with other bis and like make that community too if you don't have anyone else yet. But the last thing I wanted to say is I've been to some of your parties. People are a little shy. Bis are shy.
Bis are shy.
Bis
Eyes are shy. You're talking to 3 shy bisexuals
Bis are
right
a little
now.
shy. How do
Some
we
are shy.
flirt with each other?
Some are shy, some are not. I would hold your hands right now, but they're so sweaty.
Oh, my hands are soaked. It's just nervousness.
I'm so wet.
oh my god! Start the podcast with that. I am so wet.
That's how you
I don't
flirt.
have sex with anyone. I'm so wet.
The one in the middle is a slut.
In the middle of the slut. Flirting advice, though.
Yeah.
You've acted on these feelings, how did you go about doing it?
Yeah.
How did you make these situations happen? How do you flirt with someone? How does someone know that you're not just being like,
Oh my God.
best friend, I like your shirt. And you're being
Literally.
like, I like your
That's
shirt.
the
wink
worst.
face.
That's what that happens to. I think that's like classic
Don't
bisexual
confuse me.
experience is being like, you're so pretty. And then they're like, no, you're so pretty.
Yeah.
And then I'm like,
Do we want to fuck or be best friends?
yeah. That has to be the third question, I think, or like the follow up to
Yeah.
you're so pretty, you're so pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think like compliments are a big one. Like if it's a compliment you would say to your mom,
Yeah.
don't say it to a girl you're trying to date. I think you're so pretty, we can
Yeah.
We can skip past that.
we can skip that. Yeah. Like eye contact,
Eye contact.
touching,
It's a big one.
consensually.
Yeah.
Physical touch is like a big one for me. Like if I like you, I'm going to like
Yeah.
The classic, like,
what about you, shy girl over here?
Yeah, right.
I don't know. I mean, honestly, I really have no idea what my flirting style is. I just like ask a lot of questions, but I think that's because on the inside, I am very nervous.
Yeah.
So I feel like if I can kind of like take lead of the conversation, there'll be less awkward moments because I'm just going to interview you real hard. And then we'll just kind of see where it goes. Like you just like learn about people from that. So I feel like for me,
Am I
just,
going to hire you or am I going to fuck you?
right? And then by the end of it, it'll get like a little bit more. I'm sure the questions will turn into other things,
yeah.
right?
Playing 20 questions.
It'll be it'll turn into that, and then there'll just be like a few that I'm sure will lead in that direction.
And then her
perhaps.
final question is always, do you want to kiss?
Yes.
It's always I feel
And it
like we
works
should kiss
every
right now.
time.
Yeah. It's a Christine classic.
Is your classic actually
Does it
20
work?
questions and the last question is, do you want to kiss?
Pretty
I
much.
feel like we should kiss right now.
And it works.
That's a good tip.
It
10 out of-
works
10 out of
every
10
time.
times?
Yeah.
It works
It has
every time.
100% success rate.
Wow.
Wow.
If you just ask.
Honestly,
Yeah.
asking. Yeah.
Asking is hot.
How do you get to the kiss?
Step one, astrology. You find out their sign. And then how it relates to your
you.
sign.
Yeah.
And then you're like, we're compatible. We should get married. And then we should kiss.
Married first and then kiss.
Yeah. I'm not.
It's nothing before marriage.
Yeah, that would be wrong. Yeah, and then I don't know, and then I think it's like
Yeah.
eye contact, vibes,
Yeah.
touching a little.
Yeah. Be confident in yourself too.
Yeah, it's the
You can
confidence
do it.
thing.
It's a big thing.
And also, if you feel weird, like in a group setting, then just be like, "Hey, do you want to like go out and get some fresh air?"
Oh my god, getting people like one-on-one. That's what I mean. Like that's why I
Yeah.
like dates because when you're like one-on-one, you
Yeah.
can like actually.
Suss at the vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can.
Oh, see, but that psychs me out so much to like prepare to go on a date and go into that situation. I feel like if I like meet you at a bar organically and I'm like, oh my God, like I'm just gonna go out for air. Like, do you want to come with me and just like continue this outside where it's a little quiet? Like that's more my vibe.
What if you get rejected? I think that's a lot of fears,
Ooh,
right?
that is a
Rejection.
big
The rejection
fear.
is
Then
bad.
you're friends,
Yeah.
right? Like then you have a friendship. Then you're
I just
like,
say like, okay, thanks, and then I'll leave.
that's
You're
very
not
you.
friends.
Yeah, rejection is scary for a lot of people. But what's the worst thing that could happen? What you think everyone's gonna stand around, and point, and laugh at you? 'Cause
Yeah.
no,
Because I will.
because I will. No, but I think the community is so, especially at Bye Bye Baby, like I feel like everyone
Yeah.
wants to talk to each other. Everyone is so nice, so loving. Like
Yeah.
it's just such a beautiful, creative, like kind community. So okay, that person doesn't want to date you or like kiss you. That's fine. They can still be your friend.
Yeah.
Okay.
Totally.
You'll still get something out of the experience of knowing them.
I think part of it too, kind of going back to that fear of rejection, it's like, okay, on the other side, potentially being the person rejecting the other person, it's like, or the response, I guess, walking away versus just wanting to be someone's friend. Thinking about when a man hits on you and sometimes you feel like, oh, that interaction, all you wanted was sex. And then there's no friendship there. So I feel like it is nice to practice that for yourself. It's like going into something without the expectation of anything happening because it's like, I don't know, that person doesn't owe you anything.
Yeah,
And being
totally.
okay
Yeah.
with the fact that it could just be a friendship and looking at every single person as like their whole self and not just like what you could get out of it.
And flirting really is just about getting to know someone at the end of the day. Like
Yeah.
I think a lot of people
Yeah.
do go into it being like, I just want to have sex with you, but flirting should be getting to know somebody. Like, do we match? And that's why Christine's 20 questions were great because you're
Exactly.
getting to know somebody.
Totally.
You see them
I
as a
mean,
whole
there
person.
are tons of times I do that at the bar that I'm not kissing people. Like, let's be real about that. Like, it's not like I play that card all the time, but I do like if I am like chatting with someone, I'm being buddy with them. Like, we can hang out at the bar all night and just like kiki and talk, and like that'll be it.
Yeah.
And then we're friends on Instagram.
But first, how do you flirt?
How do you think I flirt?
Well, you just told me you don't know how to flirt the other day.
It's true. I don't.
Do you think
She
you
was
don't?
begging me for advice the other day.
Begging. You're begging
for
very
advice.
flirty.
I think that
Shut
she's
up.
That was it for today's episode. We went through bisexuality and coming out. We chatted misconceptions about bisexuality, and we talked about affirming your identity. So, and flirting, of course. We can't forget it.
Can't forget
forget
flirting.
flirting.
Before we end off, I was wondering if there's anything that y'all want to plug.
Yeah, so Bye Bye Baby, the next one is coming up on By Visibility Day, September 23rd. You can get tickets at the link in our bio on our Instagram page at somethingcreative.co. Come have a fun bye time.
And put yourself out there.
Yay.
You love it.
So that is everything that we have for you this episode. And if you want to dive deeper into open relationships or polyamory, make sure to click this video right over here. If you like this episode, make sure you leave a like and subscribe because we put out brand new episodes bi-weekly. And if you're listening wherever you get your podcast, please consider leaving us a 5-star review because it really does help the podcast out. Until next time. Peace.